Hey, how's it going? Myles here at Tactical Hyve, joined today by Tosh, one of our subject matter experts here at Strategic Operations in San Diego. And we're going to talk about something that hasn't really been talked about on our channel, and we can't find too many videos about it. It has been discussed, but this is our opinion among the different types of realistic weapon platforms you can use for training, which shoot non-lethal rounds. And that's Simunition, or UTM, Force and Force. You have airsoft, and then you have paintball as well. And there's a lot of debate, and Tosh has a lot of experience with it. I've done a lot of Force and Force too, so it's about just kind of sharing our opinion and where all of these fall. So Tosh is going to be talking really in depth. I'm just going to give kind of the wave tops of what I've experienced. So we're just going to start off with a quick overview of what we think about all three platforms, and then dive into more details. From my personal experience, what I think is that Simunition is a great thing to use, and let me know, Tosh, if you agree, at the beginning, because what I've experienced with students who are taking classes is that they're really nervous. They don't know what to expect. So it's like you're getting that real reaction that they might. Whereas when I've seen people hold a paintball gun or an airsoft gun, they tend to, in their mind, it's like a mindset thing, they begin to think it's a game. And I think that after they get exposed to the Simunitions for a while, in terms of just kind of the training value, if they have the right mindset, airsoft and paintball can work. But that goes, that's just diving into kind of the mindset and the training value that you can get. Whereas with manipulations and things like that, there can be differences. Like paintball, you have that big container, so it's not going to be realistic. But for me, just broad strokes, that's what I've noticed. I think there's a lot of value to start off with Simunition because you're going to get natural reactions. And then later on, as you get the proper mindset, you can move on to the other platforms. Tosh, what do you think?
Okay, so I don't look at things as whether it's better or worse. What I try to do when I look at a training aid or a weapon system, what are the pros and cons? Mm-hmm. So when we look at, let's take Simunition, for instance, what are the pros and cons to Simunition? Okay, the pros to Simunition or force-on-force type systems is that it's very close. It is a real gun, and you're using the same magazines, and so the manipulation of the weapon is almost identical to what you're going to do for real. Okay, from loading the gun to engaging targets to just the handling and carrying of it, which is pretty much the same thing for airsoft, but there's a few differences with it. So the advantages to Simunition. So I don't think that Simunition is perfect by any stretch of the imagination because it does fail quite a bit, which in training I don't think is a bad thing because now you got to deal with that failure of the weapon system. You get used to working out problems. The problem with Simunition, the failures aren't exactly the same if it were a real bullet, okay? And none of the systems, whether it be paintball or airsoft, are the same as a real weapon system. Simunition is the closest to that, okay? Simunition versus force on force, now we can discuss those two different types of rounds that actually function differently, okay? I'm a big fan of force on force or Simunition because it is so similar to the real thing, okay? And I think it can be used throughout your training process, not just in the beginning. You still have the same reaction or close to the same reaction from people, even if they've already done it a few times, okay, or a lot, Over time, you start getting dead to it because you do it a lot. That's why you need to take breaks from it and do live fire, go do other things, and then come back to Simunition. But it should be part of your regiment. The only issue with the Simunition system is reliability, okay? You do have a lot of malfunctions. You don't want to deal with that all the time, right? And cost. It's very, very expensive. So this isn't something you're gonna do at your house, okay? You can't do this unless you've got tons of money that you can just blow, okay? So Simunition is very expensive and it's hard to get. So I think if you're not attached to some kind of police kind of or military facility, then it's very hard to get the ammunition because Simunition is very strict on how they sell their ammunition. So that's one of the big downfalls to force-on-force Simunition type stuff.
And just for those of you who are curious about the different types of brands and gears, because there's UTM, Simunition, Force and Force. Those are the three major companies that kind of deal in this market. I will link to a video. We'll add an annotation. We did a review from a previous SHOT Show. I think it was 2020 or 2019. So you can watch that video. So if you're curious about the different companies and what they have to offer.
Okay, so airsoft. In the actual gunfighter community, people that do essentially gunfighting for a profession, so to speak, police officers and military, we kind of joke about airsofters, okay? But the reality is airsoft is actually pretty good for training, and I think it's better than dry firing, okay? Because you can actually get results from your weapon system. Because if you look at this, the only thing that you would be able to tell right off the bat that this is an airsoft pistol is the orange tip. And they put that on there because I think it's a law that they have to. So. And you can take it off if you don't like it, you know. But the airsoft is good because the weapon system pretty much acts like the real thing. See, even the weight, they've made them pretty similar to the real thing. So this thing has the safety and functions exactly like the real thing, okay? Pretty close. Some things are a little bit weak and not like the real gun. The biggest downfall to these, the airsoft pistols, are usually the magazines, okay? Or CO2 holders, depending on what type of airsoft you get. The bullets obviously aren't the same. They're little BBs, plastic BBs, but they're inexpensive and the air is pretty inexpensive. So this is something that you can actually do and train at your home without even going to the range.
Is it true about the mags, Tosh, that for airsoft in particular, if you drop these mags, they're finicky or they can...
Yeah, so I do have a magazine for this 320, and I was doing some drills on a hard floor and I actually broke the little plastic piece that's on the end because of the weight. It is heavy, and the more gas you have it, the heavier it is. So yeah,
did it fly all over the place?
No. It just broke the little plastic tabby thing. So they are finicky. They can break fairly easy, but it's inexpensive and it's a way to train, and you can do a lot of things with this. The only issue with this is you don't have the noise, and same with Simunition. The noise is not the same as a real gun. The cool thing about Simunition is they sell also blank rounds that if you're going for more of the shock factor, that's another option you can go with, whereas you don't really have that with airsoft. That's right. Yep. It sounds like a really good suppressed weapon system. Okay, it's still loud though. So if you're shooting in your backyard and people around you, they're going to hear that, right? So I run into that issue at my house. So, and the problem with airsoft is it's messy. Right? You got all those little BBs. Yeah, they're biodegradable and all that other stuff. But like here at StratOps, we're not allowed to use airsoft because it is coming out, I believe, over 400 feet per second. And so it sticks inside stuff. So you gotta build your own target system that these BBs don't affect your property and all that. And then you got, it captures the BBs and all that other stuff. So the downside of this is it just doesn't, it feels like a toy because it is a toy, but it is a great training aid at the same time, okay? Paintball, okay, we don't have a paintball gun here, but the problem with paintball is that it just does not really function and act like the real system. But it's great for like role players. It's inexpensive. It's more expensive than airsoft, but it's fairly inexpensive to utilize a paintball for opposing forces that aren't worried about getting technique and training. So it has its advantage. It's still throwing a very fast projectile that can hurt, and pain is a good teacher. So those are the pros and cons, in my opinion, to these systems. All of them are good for training aids. Okay, there is another con with any of these systems, is they give you a false sense of security. Okay, I've seen tactics developed based on units that have been using Simunition as their primary way to train, and they treat concealment as cover. That's right. Okay, so that's the problem with all of these, right? you get a false sense of security. Oh, well, I didn't get hit because I dived behind this piece of cardboard, right? So I have cover, okay? That can lead to certain types of training scars too, because you're not looking at your cover as cover. You're just seeing something that's in the way and hoping that's gonna protect you.
And to give you guys a specific example, which you may have seen if you watch force on force videos of, it could be military cops or civilians going in a vehicle scenario, they're kind of running around the car, and because they can't really shoot through the windows or the car with paintball or sim, and then you will see videos of a very, very, very similar situation, which is real life, and well, the cop or the bad guy, they didn't really have to move a lot because the cop just lit the bad guy up through the car and it was done. So I do agree, and that was one of the specific examples I was going to share.
Right, so that's probably the biggest training scar with all of these non-lethal systems is when you have mediums that you're gonna use for cover, concealment, and shoot through. You can't do that with these systems.
How do you think, so this is more about the instructors really just kind of honing in, telling the students, hey, you know, in real life, you could have shot through this wall or shot through this door. It's more about the observation, and the learning point comes from that, the instructors reminding them?
I think the best way to do it is do a live fire medium shoot, seeing what, as an example, so having plywall placed up and go to a live fire range and shooting through that plywall, cinder block, brick, and actually having classes where you do that, which I'll do, is we'll do what's called a medium shoot, and we'll shoot through those. Will your bullet make it through or will it not make it through? So that teaches you a couple things. What can my weapon system do? And what can I hide behind? Because there's a lot of things like people think, hey man, I'm behind this wall, I'm safe.
Yep.
Depending on the weapon system, you may not be so safe.
And that's one of the reasons, guys, if you watch, pay attention to our videos on Monday, Blast Off Mondays, we didn't just do it just to blow things up. We're actually using different household items, things like that, and it's kind of a baby myth of cover type of series where we're using different rounds, different weapon platforms, different objects. What is truly cover? How far will things penetrate? So, guys, if you haven't watched that, it's on Monday, and it's aligned with exactly what Tosh is saying, but we do a variety of different things, so check it out.
So yeah, like one of the big mythos when I was a young guy in the teams was, hey, if you stack your 3 magazines thick, that adds to protection. Man, that is totally bogus. Okay, especially when you're talking about high velocity rounds like AK or M4. So you don't want to have those false senses of security. You got to know what cover is and what concealment is. And use it accordingly. And that is again, back to this, that's the biggest downfall to these. Building tactics off of Simunition because the things that worked in the kill house with Simunition may not actually be the right way to go. So be careful that you trainers and instructors out there, just because you didn't get shot with Simunition doesn't mean that tactic is gonna be effective in a real world situation.
So there you guys have it. This is kind of a quick overview of pros and cons of the different non-lethal platforms that you could use for training. I think that what it comes down to at the end is really using them properly for what they're, for the benefits that each platform has, and comes down to mindset in the sense that kind of aligned with cover versus concealment, you need to have the right mindset and know, what's real and what's not. If you guys have any questions about the different platforms, anything about like an airsoft, paintball, Simunition, leave it in the comments, let us know. And if you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.